Hey man, there's something most men never fully understand until they've been hurt, betrayed, or left wondering how the woman they once trusted could change so drastically. And that is this: women live in a world that doesn't exist. Not because they're evil, not because they're stupid, but because their perception of reality is rooted in emotion, not logic, in fantasy, not facts. They don't see the world as it is, they see it as they feel it should be. And that emotional filter, it distorts everything, it reshapes truth. And unless you understand that, you will spend your life being confused, manipulated, and emotionally drained by women who never even knew what they were doing. When a woman says she loves you, she means it in that moment. But if her feelings shift a week later, she'll leave you without blinking, because in her world, the truth has changed. In her world, reality is fluid, flexible, shaped by emotion. So when you ask, "But what about everything you said?" she'll look at you like you're crazy. Because she doesn't live in your world of facts and commitments. She lives in her world of feelings, and in that world, Tuesday's truth might be Thursday's betrayal. And there's no accountability for that, because she wasn't lying, she just felt differently. This is why so many men are left speechless when a woman ghosts them, cheats on them, or suddenly ends a relationship that seemed perfectly fine. Because in her world, everything makes sense. Her actions are justified by her emotions. If she feels ignored, even if you were busy working, that's betrayal. If she feels unattractive, even if you complimented her yesterday, that's neglect. You can explain the facts, show the evidence, remind her of the reality, but it won't matter, because in her world, her feelings are the facts. And trying to argue against emotion with logic, that's like yelling math at a hurricane. You see it in the way they fall in love. Faced, intense, passionate. She builds castles in her mind before she's even learned your last name, and you think it's real. You think she's all in, but what you're seeing isn't love, it's emotional projection. She's not falling for you, she's falling for a story, an image, a possibility. And when reality starts to kick in, when she sees you as a flawed human being instead of the fantasy she built in her head, that's when the disillusionment sets in. That's when the withdrawal starts, and you're left wondering where that affectionate, passionate woman went. The truth? She never existed. She was a product of her imagination. This is why women often say things that make no logical sense. I want a strong man who shows his feelings. I want a provider who doesn't care about money. I want a leader who lets me lead. These are contradictions, but they're emotionally valid, because she's not seeking logical consistency. She's chasing a feeling, a vibe, an emotional high. And the moment that vibe disappears, her story changes, her needs change, her expectations shift. Not because she's calculating, but because her reality is built on a constantly shifting foundation. And if you don't understand that, you'll keep trying to make sense of nonsense. Social media has made this fantasy world even more dangerous, because now women are bombarded with images of perfect lives, perfect couples, perfect men. And instead of appreciating the real man in front of them, they're comparing him to a fantasy, to filters, to 10-second clips, to stories that aren't real. And they start believing that anything less than perfection is failure. That if you're not texting her like a poet, showing up like a billionaire, and loving her like a rom-com character, then you're not doing enough. She's comparing your reality to someone else's highlight reel, and you'll never win that battle. The scariest part, she doesn't even know she's doing it, because in her world, this feels right, it feels true, and modern culture reinforces it, tells her she's always right, that her emotions are valid, that if you feel it, it must be true. And so she stops questioning her impulses, she stops seeking truth, she starts living inside her own emotional echo chamber, and any man who dares to challenge that narrative is labeled controlling, toxic, or insecure. But in reality, he's the only one with his feet on the ground. This is why you'll see women jump from relationship to relationship, never pausing to reflect, because in her world, she was never wrong. The man was, the circumstances were. Her ex didn't make her feel safe. Her new guy just gets her. But give it time and the cycle will repeat. Because it's not about the man, it's about the world she's built in her head. A world where love is supposed to be easy, where emotions never fade, where discomfort means danger. And as soon as reality knocks, she bolts. because her illusion can't survive the weight of the real world. You can't fix this. You can't save her. You can't pull her out of a world she doesn't even know she's in. What you can do is protect yourself. You stop buying into her fantasy. You stop believing her words over her actions. You stop trying to prove yourself to someone who changes the rules mid-game. And instead, you stand in reality. You stay grounded. You lead with facts, with consistency. And if she follows, great. If not, you don't chase. Because a man who's loyal to reality never begs for company in delusion. And here's the truth. No one tells you the more grounded you are, the more she will test you. Because in her world, strength is attractive, but also threatening. She'll poke, she'll prod, she'll create chaos just to see if you'll crumble. And if you do, she loses respect. If you stay calm, she either levels up or she leaves. And either outcome is a win for you. Because the right woman, the rare woman, will eventually realize that her fantasy can't give her what she truly needs. Stability, leadership, truth. And when that day comes, she'll look to the man who never flinched. The deeper truth is this. A woman's emotional world is not something you can logic your way into or out of. It's not built on rules, it's built on sensation, impulse, and intuition. That's why she'll contradict herself and not even notice. Why she'll cry over things she created, and blame you for not fixing the chaos she caused. And unless you have the frame to hold steady, you'll be dragged into that storm. You'll start doubting your own judgment. You'll feel crazy for trusting your gut. And that's when you lose yourself. Not because she's evil, but because you forgot to anchor in reality while she floated in fantasy. There's a reason so many men today feel emotionally exhausted, confused, and defeated. They're trying to love a woman based on who she could be instead of who she really is. They're holding on to the memory of how she made them feel in the beginning and ignoring who she's become now. They're addicted to the highs and scared to confront the lows. But the truth? If she lives in a world where emotions rule over loyalty, where fantasies override effort, and where truth is whatever she wants it to be, then you're not in a relationship. You're in a dream that turns into a nightmare the second you stop performing. So you must understand this. Her world is not your responsibility. Her emotional highs are not your problem. Her confusion, her impulsiveness, her fairy tale expectations, they are not your job to fix. Your job is to stay grounded in what's real, to lead with vision, to move with clarity. And if she can meet you in that place, great. If not, let her live in her illusion. Let her find someone else to play along. Because you didn't come this far, build this much, and fight through this many battles just to be the background character in someone else's fantasy. You are the reality. She either joins it or exits it. This is why a man must build his own world before he ever lets a woman into it. A world based on truth, on standards, on values. A world that doesn't shift with someone else's mood swings. And the moment you let her enter that world, you watch. Not her words, her patterns. Not how she acts when she's happy, but how she behaves when she's challenged. Does she bring peace or chaos? Growth or distraction? Reality or illusion? Because you can't afford to let fantasy walk through the front door and start rearranging the furniture in your mind. What's wild is that even though she lives in a fantasy, she still wants you to be real. She wants you to be the anchor while she's the wave. She wants you to be consistent while she's unpredictable. And that's your power, but also your burden. Because if you're not solid in who you are, she'll knock you off balance just by existing. That's why most relationships today are upside down. The man is reacting while the woman is leading emotionally, but the ones that last, the rare ones, they're led by men who stay grounded while letting her be emotional, without letting her chaos dictate their truth. The truth is, brother, most women don't even want to live in the fantasy, but they don't know how to escape it. They've been fed lies since birth, that every emotion must be honored, that love should be effortless, that discomfort is oppression, so they seek magic in every moment. They look for sparks, butterflies, signs from the universe, but they're never taught that love is work, that stability is strength, that a man who's boring but consistent is worth more than 1,000 charismatic manipulators. And until they learn that, they'll keep chasing shadows and leaving behind the men who were actually real. And here's the irony, when she finally gets tired of her fantasy, when she finally wakes up from the illusion, she'll come looking for a man like you. Not because she suddenly sees your value, but because reality finally forced her to. But by then, you'll be gone. you'll have outgrown the games. You'll have built a life that doesn't need validation, affection, or drama to feel whole. And when she realizes that she let go of a real one for a carousel of illusions, that pain will hit different, because she won't be mourning you. She'll be mourning the life she could have had, but wasn't emotionally ready to accept. The strongest men I know aren't loud. They're not chasing, they're not bitter, they're just done. Done playing therapist, done explaining logic to chaos, done trying to be everything to someone who doesn't even know what she wants. They've accepted the truth. You cannot build with someone who lives in a dream and calls it love. So now they build alone, or with women who faced their own illusions and humbled themselves. But either way, these men no longer lose sleep over being misunderstood. They sleep well because they chose peace over potential. So if you've ever felt crazy trying to make sense of a woman who changes every day, don't you were sane. You were just operating in reality while she was lost in imagination. If you ever bent over backwards to prove your worth and still got discarded, understand this: you were never in her real world. You were a character in her emotional movie, and the script changed. But now, you see it. You know better. You won't step back into a role you didn't audition for. You won't be someone's temporary savior while she looks for eternal fireworks. You've earned your clarity now. Keep it close. Women live in a world that doesn't exist, and that's okay. Let them. But you as a man must remain grounded. You must move in truth. You must build in reality, because this world doesn't reward fantasy. It rewards discipline, vision, and clarity. And when you stay rooted in that, when you stop trying to convince women to see things as they are, you find peace, you find power, and maybe, just maybe, a woman finds you who's finally tired of illusions and ready to live in your world. A world where love is real, loyalty is proven, and truth isn't just spoken, it's lived.